Many of you guys probably just watched our video on the top 5 ways that moving off grid has made our lives better. And I had a couple comments that want to know, tell me the ways that moving off grid has made your life worse. Well, I hate to break it to you, but there's absolutely nothing here that has made our life worse moving off grid. However, that said, there are a couple challenges that we do have in moving off grid, and I'm going to tell you guys the top 5 challenges that we have moving off grid. But because I'm not the type of person that likes to list challenges without having a solution, I'm also going to let you know what solution we have to those challenges. So let's get started. So the number one biggest challenge that we have in moving off grid is our generator. I kind of have a love-hate relationship with this generator. We actually have 2 of them. This one is our diesel, and then we have a smaller Honda one on the side of the house that's used to run our computer, so that allows us to edit video. Now, a love-hate relationship because I love this thing. It is a great backup support to our solar system. Hate this thing because we have to rely on it right now. Our solar system isn't sized appropriately for our needs at the house, so this thing has got to run every single day for a minimum of 15 minutes, sometimes as long as a couple hours, to either run our water pump, because we do not have running water unless this thing is running, to run our washer, to also charge our batteries, and also to run our refrigerator when we need our refrigerator run. And that is not a good thing. The 2 reasons why it's not a good thing is because 1, it makes a whole lot of noise, and I really don't like that. I love the peace and quiet of living out here in nature, so I don't really like the noise of these. The other thing is right now it is costing us just as much in diesel and in gas as it would be if we were having an electric bill if we were on grid. So that is definitely not a plus. Now, how are we going to solve this problem? Well, right now this is a temporary solution. This is working for the trailer that we are living in, and when we go to build our house, our small cabin that we're going to build, we will have an appropriately sized solar system so that we don't have to rely on the generator all the time. But right now this would be our number 1 challenge in living off grid. So our second biggest challenge in living off grid has got to be running water. We need to have water to do all kinds of things. However, as I just mentioned, we do not have running water unless our generator is running. Because our generator is only running for anywhere between 15 minutes and usually about an hour per day, that is the only time that we have running water in the house. That means the rest of the 23 hours a day, we do not have the water to flush the toilets, to take a shower, to do the laundry, to wash our hands, to do the dishes. That means during that period when we have the water or the generator running and the water being pumped up to the house, that's when we need to fill up buckets, fill up containers, make sure that our Berkey is filled, and make sure everything's good to go for the next 23 hours before we turn on the generator again. This is to reduce the amount of time that we're running the generator. So not having running water, a constant supply of running water, is definitely probably our second biggest challenge. Now, what can we do about it? Well, of course we can put up IBC tanks and we can gravity feed water into the house. We've looked into many different options. We can resize the system to accommodate the pump so that's running all the time. But again, we don't want to invest that kind of money right now into this system. We want to invest that kind of money into our new home. And that's going to lead me into challenge number 3. So some of you guys in the last video had requested that you see other areas of our property. This area is something that we call the meadow, and so I thought I would do challenge number 3 here in the meadow. So our third biggest challenge that we have in living off grid is time and resource management. We have this much time on our hands, we have this much financial resources, and we have this much that we want to do here on the property, which includes building a house, putting up fencing, building a barn, having livestock, setting up our solar resources, digging a well. There's so many things that we have to do and so little time and so little financial resources to do it in. So we really have to be wise in how we invest our time and our money into any of the projects around here. It's one of the reasons why you guys might see us rigging up some different systems or testing things on a very small scale. It's one of the reasons why we just don't go out and buy a bunch of things to help solve our problems. We have to be very, very wise and penny wise in how we invest our time and our money in anything here on the property to make sure that we have enough to do all the things that we want to do. So time and resource management has got to be the third biggest challenge here on the homestead. So the fourth biggest challenge in living off-grid has got to be tiny house living. Right now we are living in about a 600 square foot trailer. We are using this storage shed here as our food pantry, and then we have a whole separate container that we have our my other canning supplies in, all Jeremy's workshop stuff, and all the stuff that we can't fit into our house. Now there is a plus to tiny house living, which has to do with it's really easy to heat, and also there's kind of a closeness that you have with like your kids, because everyone's just kind of sitting around the fire and kind of forced to just be together. But the downside is there's no place to sit. All of my stuff is in separate containers, so I have to come out and hunt for things all the time. My kitchen supplies, again, I have to keep a limited supply of kitchen things, and I have to make do if it's not in the house available when I'm making a recipe, like spices for example. I only have a handful of spices I can keep in the house. If there's something else I need, to come out here to the shed, kind of dig through a box for like the next 10-15 minutes trying to find what I need, bring it in the house. So from a convenience factor, that's just not exactly ideal. Now, what are we going to do about it? Well, 600 square foot trailer, we're going to at least double that for the house that we're going to build. So right now it's just basically a temporary inconvenience, but we will be having about a 1,200 square foot house on top of a basement, so everything will kind of be contained in one area, and that'll be great for us who likes to have a nice big pantry and all the supplies to go with it. And finally, the fifth biggest challenge in moving off grid has got to be patience. Patience is not something that I have very much of, because there is so much that I want to do here and I want to get started on it, but there's such an overwhelming amount of information to learn and homework to do before we even start physically doing things. So all of this studying and researching and waiting and waiting and waiting before we can actually jump in and start doing things, I would say is one of the biggest challenges for me in particular. I would love to get started on building the house right now, but and clearing roads and clearing trees, but there's just so many other things to do, and one of the top priorities that we need to get done is this wood pile. We really need to get started on cutting down some wood for next year. If this isn't a priority and we start working on something else like the house, you know, we're going to find ourselves next fall or next winter when the temperatures drop without wood. So we do need to get this started first. So patience would have to be the fifth biggest challenge in moving off grid. All right guys, so that wraps up our 5 biggest challenges in living off grid. As you can tell, all of those challenges are pretty unique to us and our situation. We are fully aware of what the challenges are and how to address each one of the problems, and it's just a matter of addressing them and dealing with them when we can. If you guys have any questions or comments for us, leave them down below. We'll try and get to those as best we can. And if you guys like this kind of stuff, like, subscribe. Catch you in the next video. Thanks for watching.